We have Peter Deal Almeida. He is a former managing director and chief executive of Enable, an IT company he founded in 2008 with the purpose of connecting people and things with insights for an efficient and intelligent world. Before his involvement with the IT industry, Peter was a banker. During his time, he served as the treasurer of the Central Bank Employees Union, where he was actively engaged in championing worker benefits for its employees nationwide. While his diverse career spans nearly 3 decades in banking, advertising, and IT industries, Peter has enjoyed a parallel career in arts as an actor and a director. He has starred in plays, television dramas, and films. Currently, Peter is the CEO of Kehelmala Productions, whose purpose is to inspire and sustain audience through creative storytelling that pushes past boundaries, embraces diversity, and provokes thoughts. It's my honor to welcome our keynote speaker for today, Peter Dil Almeida. The virtual screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Shamal. Just to check, can you hear me and see me? Hello, Shamal. Can you hear me and see me? I just want a quick clarification before I proceed.
Yes.
Okay, I can be heard and I can be seen. Right, great. So I think I have a 60-minute session. I will speak for about 20-25 minutes. And hopefully we will engage in a Q&A session after that. So that right from the very beginning of Dev Day 2021, you can start off sessions to be interactive rather than just listening to someone speaking and then not engaging with them on what they have said and challenging them on some of the ideas they have expressed. So thank you for inviting me. I was originally expected to speak at the end, the final keynote, but I think somewhere down the line it was changed and I was made to speak on the opening, and I'm very happy I'm able to do that. Now we were a little rushed on topic, and we were thinking of the topic of managing versus leading, which got somewhat translated into managers are not leaders. But I want to say something that I want to change the topic, because as I was preparing for this talk, I found that there is something much more relevant that I can speak about today at the opening. And the idea came to me when I started looking at your topic, because you see, your topic is very interesting. It talks about embrace the digital revolution. And then I changed my topic in that context with your permission, without your permission, Bala, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind. Because I thought, let's address the topic meaningfully. Because you go on to say in your promotional video that adapting to digital is not enough. Let's start living digital. So I was just thinking of these words: embrace digital, adapting to digital, living digital. And I thought maybe I should structure my opening keynote to be relevant directly to the theme rather than move on to something like managing is not leading. But we can talk a little about that as well. So firstly, let's look at this word digital. What does that really mean? And I think that's where I think it's important for the conference to spend a little time. Are we talking about the same thing here? Because everyone will come to the conference with their own notion of digital, and that's okay, because there is no strict definition of what digital is. But it's worth asking that question, because it's your role as software developers. You're trying to understand the context in which we are having this discussion. What is the context? Software programmers 30 years ago, software programmers 50 years ago, and software programmers of the future. So what is digital? Now, is it technology? Some people will say digital is technology, AI, machine learning, automation, data analytics, and all of that. And yet others will say it's new ways of engaging with customers. That's a new way of engaging with customers. That's what we mean when we say digital. And thirdly, somebody might say it's entirely new ways of doing business. Now, you know the types of new businesses that have emerged recently, especially during the pandemic, something simple as food delivery. It was there, but more and more people have got involved. That experience is being created very differently, and so on and so forth. And lots of new types of business, that groceries get delivered, all sorts of things. So you know that. But now, in this context, I want to share with you my experience with banking in Sri Lanka when we tried to introduce digital to banking. And that's when I found, shockingly, the absolute lack of real interest in trying to understand what digital really means. Firstly, what I found was very disturbing was that the CEOs and the top management were not really vested in this. They let digital be an IT initiative. Now they did say, oh no, we must talk about it, but now they have so many committees in banks, audit committee, what do you call it, compliance committees and all that. Okay, that's all well and good, but there was no top management focus and effort to really understand what digital and how it can change their business. It was a shocking revelation to me. And I worked in this for years to try to understand. And what they would do is subcontract it to either a consultant, easy, very easy, someone can do this for us, or to their own internal consultant or to the IT department. Now, I am not disparaging the IT department or anything like that, but that's not their role because they are hired, and it's unfair to expect the CIO to come up with a digital strategy for the bank. It's insane. That means you have not understood what digital is. If you expect the CIO plays a role, that we understand. But it's not the CIO's function to define what digital means for banking. So this was a shocking revelation to me. And, what they instead did was to see whether they can apply technology to their existing products and services. That's where the first drawback came. So they were very busy taking a transformational technology like digital, an idea, not even a technology, a transformational concept, a transformational breakthrough, narrowed it down as a technology, and worse still, they applied that technology for existing products and services. In fact, just an incremental difference in customer experience. And what did you hear them talk about? Wallet, mobile application, payments. Okay, these are useful things, but the world has gone beyond that. And so they have not really understood how can we create new value streams to our customers. So you see, if your customers are not understanding what digital can do for them, what does that make you? So, and I found that, you see, what they really try to understand, what they're trying to say about digital is, you have to understand how, firstly, the customer's behavior. Are you really using the data you have to understand customer behavior? How are your customers behaving? And look at credit cards. Credit cards give you a damn good idea of customers are behaving, but the banks don't care. I do not know of a single bank in Sri Lanka that's really looking at the credit card information meaningfully and offering interactive real-time exchange. I'll come to that in a minute. So we found this. That's not only banks, even other big corporations. Now, I talk about this, I can say it openly in this forum. Now take Nexus card, John Keel's. Now Nexus goes beyond the cards. Nexus tells you what they are buying, the quantities that they are buying, when they buy, where they buy, how often they buy, how often these are repeated, how much of this data is used by Nexus. To this day, when you go to the Nexus counter to pay off, you have to shout out your telephone number. Now, your telephone number is something personal to you. And it's an identity today, your telephone number. Why should you be shouting that at the counter? You see how far behind we are. And we are talking about embracing digital. So people don't get the potential of digital. I'll give you another example. a very large company. I'll mention the name, MAS. 10 years ago, or maybe a little less, we came with a revolutionary breakthrough at one of their subsidiaries. They were having a problem of turnover, staff turnover. So we had at Enable, we had a very early breakthrough in predictive analytics. And we did some algorithms that could tell who are the people who are most likely to leave that particular subsidiary of MS in the next 3 to 6 months. We came up with 47 names of people who might leave. 43 of them left. What did they do with that breakthrough idea? They never thought, how can we extend this to making predictions about fashion and what might be needed and spreading this across the company? No, it came to a complete standstill. Nothing was done about it, even to this day. Nobody in the company sat down and thought, oh my God, look at this. How can we use this to other aspects of our business, to our supply chain, to our customer relationship, to predicting fashion, whatever. Now, we took it to the banks and we told the banks, here's what you can do with your credit card prediction. And we said, now the banks, a lot of banks in Sri Lanka, they have about 5-6 million customers, but they only have about 200,000 credit cards issued, 300,000 debit cards, very little. So what do? They subcontract it to a company that gives you cold calls you. Card එකක් තියනවද ගන්නවද? Then you sometimes they catch you at a bad time. They don't know that you've got a platinum card or whatever. You scold them, අම්මත් මතක් කරලා, you know, blackguard them and say, what the hell are you calling me? Don't you know? Whatever. So we came up with the same application of this technology and said we can now predict with at that time, the first iteration, we can predict with about 76% accuracy who are the most likely people to get a credit card over the next 3 to 6 months. Banks were not interested. Subcontracted it to the card department, subcontracted it to IT. None of the senior managers really. There was one bank where the CEO took some trouble, but soon he gave up. Maybe because he was frustrated. Nobody saw how can we use this for a better experience. And then with all the information that we get through that data, how can we, now today, I'll just give you an example of embracing digital. To this day, I'm taking one example of banks, just to see how backward we are. Banks put out a full page ad with all the little badges or icons of companies under which they have their promotion for the season. Now, can you imagine how primitive this is? Can you? First and foremost, you can't see that because it's a full page. They are trying to give as many merchants as possible. You have to take a magnifying glass and go and look at it. Secondly, when you go to the merchant, can you open this application, this picture you have taken, and scan through and enlarge it, pinch it, make it larger, and see who is offering me a discount in a business that in a merchant that I'm interested in? Come on. This is not embracing digital. They know exactly what my usage pattern is. Now they are sending me promotion for hotels in a small hotel in Maharagama or Kabitigolam or some place. There's no relevance to the places I go to. So, I mean, these are basics. So we have a complete lack of a digital mindset. So that's what they say. So firstly, let's go back and look at what digital then is. So we know what is not happening. Let's talk about what it should be. So firstly, digital should be about creating value at new frontiers, where the action is taking place. Like the example of the Nexus card. At the point of checking out, there has to be a value created at that point. Is that happening? In banking, is that happening? Where are they creating value in new frontiers? In other words, you're missing out on understanding opportunities. So digital is all about understanding quickly emerging opportunities and how quickly can we address them. So that is not happening. The second thing about digital is about creating value in your core business. Like I was just saying, proactive decision making. Push me to do something based on what I have bought. based on my transaction. Proactive. And it has to be contextual. Like I said, do not send me a promotion for Nissan spare part when I'm driving a Subaru. Do not send me a promotion to a hotel in some small hotel for a day use when I do not have any indication of that transaction in my credit card transactions with you. To get the picture. Contextual and real time. When I buy something at Keels or wherever, when I interact with the bank, when I make a specific transaction, that's the time that you're using all of digital to see, can I push something to you that will be helpful to you? Can I send you some information? Can I entice you with an offer? Where is all this real-time automation happening today in any of the transactions we are seeing? And the other, last but not least, journey-focused innovation. What are the journeys that our customers are going through? Not just with you. Now, we have relationship managers who have no idea. I don't blame them. They're handling 200 customers. They have no idea of what they're dealing with because they are not provided the information of that individual customers they're dealing with. So what are the journeys that their customers are going through outside of your business? That is what they have to understand. Not only their transactions with you, much more importantly, their journeys outside of your business. That is what we are talking about, journey-focused innovation. And last but not least, you have to build foundational capability. In other words, you have to have a digital mindset. What does a digital mindset mean? A few things. You're data-driven. Decision is data-driven. Nothing else. Don't go by hunch and feeling and emotion, data-driven. And secondly, you have to decentralize decision-making to small teams. Not this old hierarchical system, very small teams making decisions. And cross-functional collaboration in businesses, even in yours. So that's the context of your theme today. And interestingly, this is the context in which you have to start examining your role as software developers. You are not working in a vacuum. What is the context in which you come to work every day and write code? If you just show up and say, "Mata code, some small transaction, I have to write it down, I'll go and do it." So you don't know the relevance. So firstly, I don't know how many of these organizations have a culture where a small team that's writing a small piece of code for a specific issue understands the context in which that will be rolled out, create value for your customer. Do you have that culture and practice within your organizations? The old theory of alienation in manufacturing, where you have to do your part where they bought the assembly line. All you have to do is to turn one nut, and little by little the assembly line got faster and faster and faster. Any of you have seen the Charlie Chaplin film Modern Times will see how ridiculous that was, how berserk he goes. Are we bringing that back into our software development practice? Where you have to do something fast, you do only that piece and you have no context of how that little piece is delivering value. Forget about how it works in the context of the entire piece of software that you're writing. But at the end of the day, you're not writing software, you're writing solutions to problems, or you're creating new experiences. Remember that. Customers buy only two things. This was taught to me by the late Udit Aliyanage, who was later in the Postgraduate Institute of Management. Customers buy only two things. They buy good feelings and solutions to problems. If you want to write, you can buy a ballpoint pen. But if you want to have good feelings, you buy a Mont Blanc or a Parker or whatever the new pens are. I don't know, I've lost track. So, what are you writing? Are you solving some problem? Are you participating in the solving of a problem? Or are you participating as a software developer in creating a new experience? Do you understand that? Is it in that context that you sit down now to write a piece of code? So that is where, very interesting, that I came across another article preparing for this, That article is criticizing the use of the word software engineer. They're saying, are they really engineering? And we'll come to that in a minute. But before that, I want to think of two things that I want you to focus on. And before I come to that, I'll talk about this. Have you thought about, do you think about the concept of elegant code? I think every software developer should definitely start thinking about what is elegant code? What does that mean? Am I writing elegant code? Now, there was a quotation I found preparing for this by Bill Gates. Very interesting. He says, measuring programming progress by lines of code is like measuring aircraft building progress by weight. How heavy is the piece that you're fixing on the aircraft? You understand? So he's talking about elegant code, which brings me to the first characteristic I think all software programmers must have: creativity. How creative are you? Is creativity a key skill that you are bringing to your work? Because what does creativity do? Very interesting, talking about elegant code. I had given another talk some long time ago on creativity, and I looked back at that and I found a very interesting quotation from a German American architect called Helmut Jahn. He says creativity has more to do with the elimination of the inessential than with inventing something new. I'll repeat that because this goes to the heart of elegant code. Creativity has more to do with the elimination of the inessential rather than, more than inventing something new. Now, elegant code is just that. It's so easy to understand because you have removed the inessential. I was working for Sun Microsystems. I met the developer of Java. I met him. And when he presented, he said Java is nothing but C++ minus minus. And he brought a book of C programming. And he showed, he highlighted all the pieces of C that they took out. So C, that was only C then. When he used C++, he was not talking about C++ program. He said C++ minus minus took away the essential. That's why you got that lovely Java applet that could be used across different devices, very lightweight. You know that. How many of you actually gone and understood how Java was developed and what it really does? Of course, we have come a long way since which year was I with Sun Microsystems? 1995, when they invented Java and network file system and all of that. You see, so that's where you have to think of yourself as creative people, not just writing some code, not lines of code like Bill Gates says. I'm measuring progress by lines of code or the elegance of the code you write. So creativity. Now talking about creativity, my partner, she's a designer. And one of the things I learned is once they did and she used to design clothes for very high top-end customers, you know, customers who would spend $1,000, sometimes more, on one piece of garment, because her thing was elegance. Now, when people make clothes with many seams, right now my shirt, there's a seam at the collar, there's a seam for my sleeves, there's a seam on the side, there's a seam at the bottom. But her goal was to make clothes with one seam. Whatever the beautiful clothes are, and when you look at it, you see how it falls, how it works. There's only one seam, one stitch. All the rest is all in pattern making. The patterns are made in such a creative way. Finally, you put one stitch and the garment comes together. So that's the first one. Elegance. One, not untidy little pieces patched together, sleeve, you know, where it's all joined up. Sometimes those clothes are also nice. I'm not saying every elegant garment should be made with one seam. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just trying to say there are different ways of approaching design and creativity. But the second thing that I learned, which is directly applicable to you as programmers, is once she did a garment for a customer. I was there when the fit-on was tried on. Top-end garment. Customer said, great, I'll take it. She said, no, I have to do something. Then the customer said, no, 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 it's fine, it's great, I'm wearing it, I'm looking at it. She said, trust me, I need to do some work on this. She found a flaw that the customer didn't find. But did she let that get out of her shop or studio? No. Because she spotted the flaw and she said, I see a flaw, I'm going to fix it. Because I want my work to be elegant. Nobody would have known. And the customer would have been happy. But you see that flaw in your programming code, you fix it. Not because you say, nobody knows, man. Nobody will find out. It's okay, I'll let it go. QA will not, your testing and QA will not find it, let it go. So, creativity. Are you focusing on the essential quality of creativity? I'm just checking my time to see how we are faring. Yeah, we're already 24 minutes. I'll finish in about 10 or 15. So, important quality, capability of a software program is creativity. Second is problem solving. You have to understand what is the problem you're solving. Like we spoke about earlier. It's in that context that you are trying to write this code, isn't it? Now, sadly, unfortunately, both these are completely killed in our education system, even in our university education system. And I don't know how much of that is nurtured even when you go to work and start learning coding under people. I don't know. I have no idea how you are put through your apprenticeship. Do you immediately do they start writing? You see, coding, anyone can code today. I don't. But if I put my heart to it, I'm sure I'll learn it. But that does not make me a great software programmer. So we are focusing on technology, on the language, on all of that's good, that's important. But are you getting your mindset ready as to what it really means to embrace digital, to embrace the potential of digital, and what am I doing here? That's creating that experience for my customer and they're my customer's customer. So killed in our school system. Creativity, forget it. You have to memorize, regurgitate at a paper within 45 minutes to 1 hour. Problem solving? No way. Because you can't fail, no? If you fail, they'll say, if you get a paper, you get 5 right. They'll say, God forbid, if you get 3 right, they'll say, you're a bloody fool, man. Go to the back of the class, there's no point teaching you. Fail. They don't say you're unsuccessful. Okay, you got 5 right, great. You had 5 problems, you had 10 problems, you solved 5. Tomorrow we'll help you to find solutions to the other 5. No, we don't have that kind of education system in our school, do we? So how can you be a problem solver? To solve problems, you have to fail. And then have another attempt. Unsuccessful. That's a singular word we use for the benefit of the foreign visitors. We don't say fail. We say asartaka. For those of you from India might see the context from Sanskrit. Sartaka is success. Asartaka. Unsuccessful. Fail is bad. Unsuccessful means I'll have another go at it. So I worry whether these 2 essential ingredients are taken away from us and we expect you to come and write elegant code when you don't have that mindset of creativity and problem solving. Which brings me to my third point. Very interesting article I read, again, preparing for this. They're challenging the notion that software is engineering. No, I am not saying that. I'm asking you to also think about it. They're challenging the notion. They're saying software is not engineering. Now, I understand there'll be different points of view. I myself am not saying this, but I'm just putting it to you to think about it. Because they are saying, what is engineering? 2 key aspects of engineering is public safety and reliability. How reliable is our software? Look at the way software breaks. Supposing our bridges and our skyscrapers and our waterworks department, our electric supply, we come to electric supply in a minute, if they all start breaking like our code and our programs, what would life be for the public? Where is public safety? They start using this software for bridges and all of that. or for rail gates, because I was involved in a project. I'll come to that at the very end. Putting lights for the rail gates. So how reliable? So if you take those two aspects of public safety and reliability, they're challenging the notion that software is really engineering because it breaks so often. Now, in fact, there was a joke in that article where somebody has tweeted. He has tweeted a message that came up. Password contains invalid characters. So that message came up when we was using some Google Docs or something. Google, mind you. I'm not too sure, so don't hold me to it, but I think it was. This came up and it said password contains invalid characters. So he responds to that by saying, no, your startup contains incompetent engineers. Fantastic, isn't it? Your password contains invalid characters. He's responding, saying, no, your startup contains incompetent engineers. So think about it. So if you're calling yourself a software engineer, think how reliable can it stand the test of engineering? Or do you writing some quick and dirty releases? I mean, we know of companies that releases bugs every week. What kind of engineering is that? We have to correct a bridge, I build it, and every day I stop the traffic, or once a week I stop the traffic, say I'm doing an upgrade, or I'm clearing a bug. You know, what kind of engineering is that? Talking of which, of course, our power plant in Norachole failed about 10 times, 8 times, and brought the country to a standstill. Nobody has been charged for it. Nobody has paid $1 in fines. So my point is that kind of laziness, inefficiency, incompetence is creeping into even our electrical engineering, power generation engineering in this country. Which brings me to a point, to the closing point. How much of opportunities are we providing in this country for our software engineers? Most of you are developing software for foreign companies. I have no problems with that because you're learning something. That's great. You're learning, you're using some foreign companies' reach to their audience to develop some skills. That's fine. But is that all that we must do? Look at all the systems that run our country's government. Now, recently, I have not got Sanjeeva Veeravarna's permission to say this, but since he went public with it, I can share it. He was at the ICTA, and I welcome his inclusion in the ICTA because he has a company that develops a world-class product, not servicing, not using someone else's product, world-class. Some of the top companies in the world use their product. What did he do? There was a national identity card system, if I remember right. He was there. They were going to pay millions of dollars and buy it easy, no? Get someone, and also you make some money on the process. I'm not saying ICT made money out of that particular transaction. No, I'm not saying that. But generally, when you buy it, you make a commission. So, what did he do? He suggested that we build it ourselves. Finally, what happened? He had to leave the ICT. Nobody took him up on that. They said, no, ICT, our job is policy and all that. Yes, but policy is not exclusive of working with a bright young team of people, provide them employment, and with some solid engineering to which Sanjeeva himself could have contributed. He would have got the assistance of other engineers, and we could have built. This is not genetic engineering, guys. To build a net identity card management system, what does it take? What is this? This is not, gene technology. This is software coding, elegant programming. Understand what the problem is. Simple. And so what do we do? So what are the chances we have when we are not allowed? We big, and it's the government projects that give you the opportunity. How much of our engineers are involved in any work that's going on in the port city or any development? And we buy clunky, old, heavyweight applications that don't run well. Again, I don't want to mention companies, it's not right. Big global companies, best in the world, still have not been able to get some of their CRM practices going at top state institutions. Nobody has paid a fine. There were photographs when we bought the software, but there are no photographs when they're failing. So what opportunities do our software engineers have to really engage in some challenging work? Probably very little. Probably very little. So those are the key points that I wanted to share with you. I think we have gone on for 33 minutes. I like to, as you go through the rest of the day's program, I think a lot of this is about technology, which is good. But I invite Tikri and Devde to look at other topics, design thinking. What does it mean? Is it creativity, problem solving, collaboration? These are, I think, more important or as important as the work that you're doing with understanding the programming language, which is important. So technicality is only one aspect of your theme, which is embracing digital like we just discussed. So I urge you as young or middle-aged or old programmers, whatever it may be, doesn't matter how old you are, to take note of some of the things we spoke about. Challenge me even in the Q&A. Peter, why do you say that? That's bollocks, that's okay. But, really start rethinking of the value. What is the pivotal value that you bring as a programmer when you walk in through those doors of your office, or when you sit at home at your computer and start writing code or designing an elegant piece of software that's solving a problem or creating new experiences? Think of yourself, think of you. What value do I bring? And that's where the one other point I didn't talk about, curiosity. That's all you need to have. I was not trained in software development or anything like that, but I did run a company and we did some good work, like I told you, but we lost value. That's a different topic. We'll talk about that on another day. But all I had was curiosity. I don't have an engineering degree. I do not have a business degree. I do not have an MBA. All you need to have is curiosity. Then you will, because the internet is at your fingertips, you will find out, you will learn. Do a course on elegant coding. What does it mean? Go read about it. Start reading now. And design thinking and creativity. So I urge you to be curious and ask yourself that vital question: what is the pivotal value that I bring to the organization with my skills? And how am I, if I don't, how am I going to build that? And then understand, okay, this is what I bring. This is the value I bring to create value for my company and for my company's customers and for their customers. So with that, I'll stop. At the very end, I'd like to take 3 minutes to give some final thoughts. So I'll stop now and we'll have some Q&A.
Sure. So Peter, that was very insightful and very informative, and really enjoyed your session here today. And let's look at the Q&A. There are two questions which is there. I assume you already partially answered one question. So nevertheless, I'll
repeat the question, please.
Yeah, sure. Let me repeat the question here.
Thank you.
Is there any impact from the culture of a country towards leadership style? Is there any impact from the culture of a country towards leadership style? That is the question.
That's a great question. That's a great question. So let me. I love questions that are not directly focused on narrowly on software development. Yes, because leadership, because that was going to be my topic. So I'll use this opportunity to talk a little about leadership. You see, I keep it very simple. Leadership is not managing. Why do I say that? Because what is a leader after all? A leader is nothing but someone who shows the way. Very simple. There are lots of books written on leadership, but if you really understand it at a fundamental level, what is leadership? Show the way. Because you to be a leader, you must have followers. There are lots of people who say, I am a great leader, but they look behind, nobody's following them. But they think I'm a leader. Nobody is following them. And also people must not follow you because they are compelled to follow you. Because you're the manager. If I don't follow him, I lose my job. I lose my increment. So I will follow him. Even if he's a dumbass, I won't say it. But I'll say, okay, you're a great leader. I'll tell you, okay, fine, you tell me, I'll do what you tell me. No, true leadership is when you have followers who are following you voluntarily, willingly, without any compulsion. So for people to follow you, what must you do? You must inspire them. Inspire. What does it mean to inspire? If I'm inspired by someone, it means I feel I want to do something. Supposing somebody inspires me about the climate change. To say I'm inspired means I feel I want to do something. That's what leaders do. They inspire people. They make them feel I want to do something about it. And secondly, very importantly, leaders also make them feel not only do you want to do something, they make you feel I can do it. Some leaders say, when you try to inspire, they say, I say, you can't do this, man. You don't have the experience. I don't think you are capable of this. So they bring you down. So that is leadership. That's the essence of what I wanted to share over 45 minutes. So are you leading or are you managing? Are you counting the lines of code or are you looking at the value that it's providing? So ask yourself, even as a team leader, are you leading? You can call yourself a team. Are you a manager? Are you leading? Are you inspiring? Are you showing them the way? And essentially, you show people the way during a difficult time. That is why the great corporate leaders, what did they do? At the first sign of trouble, they threw people out of jobs. I hope none of you, software company, threw people out of jobs. That's easy, no? So what kind of leader is that? Because you are unable to see new opportunities, you take it out on your team and you say, so your corporate profile says, our employees are our most important asset, but you contradict that. Do you let off your most important asset, cut your most important? You don't. So I quickly wanted to say that. Now come to your question. Look at the leadership in this country. Is there leadership today? Is there leadership? There are politicians. What is the leadership? Who is inspiring you to do something today? Do you feel inspired to use your ability as a software developer to write something, to do something, not only write code, but to do other things? Are you inspired? Like I told you, Sanjay Vivekananda was inspired, and he could have inspired people to write code on the national identity. So the culture of the company in the microcosm of the ICTA destroyed his leadership and the potential leadership of other people. I'm taking a specific example. Take any other example. Where is the leadership? So we have crisis after crisis, and the worst thing is that not to know that you're in a crisis. I have heard the governor of the central bank, when he was the state minister, say, no, we don't have a problem. So the moment you say, everybody says we have a problem, not only the economists, but the people on the road see the problem. They know that the cost of living has gone up. They go line up for petrol. I went in the morning for a meeting a few days ago, long kerosene oil queues. And currency, the lack of foreign exchange, all of that. And then when the person who is leading this initiative, you say, no, there is no problem. It's a temporary setback. So how can you be inspired? What is that culture? So you're absolutely right. The culture of, firstly, understanding that there is a problem. Openly, honestly, transparently, we have a problem. And it's okay to have problems. It's good to have problems. Then what do? You collect a team of people. You collect resources, capabilities, bring them together. You're not playing politics. You don't go to parliament and make speeches. This is not the time for that. You get together a team of specialists. Now the fertilizer problem. You don't only get fertilizer experts, you get farmers into the committee. They know what happens. Is there any task force on agriculture that includes our farmers? They have the Purana, the wisdom, the old wisdom. They have this. So what's that culture? Can you run your software company like that? Where the guys who are in the front end, who are not part of solving this problem. So what's the culture of this country? Are we data driven? Or are we looking at astrology and mumbo jumbo? I mean, you saw what happened during COVID. This pan and vaturan and this and that and pots in the river and all that. I mean, these are our so-called leaders. What kind of culture is that? I understand that spirituality can increase your antibodies in your body. Yes, I understand that. But that doesn't come by throwing a pot in the river, no? Or drinking something that has no idea what the ingredients are. Now, there is another Dr. Karapite who has got a Kerala, and he's talking about arthrothode as a well-known ingredient for lung problems. And the Germans are using it. They took it from Sri Lanka in Ayurveda or whatever, and they took it on our normal medicine. So I'm taking a little long on this because it's a great question. It sets the tone for a lot of things that you have to deal with in the future. And I want to come to that at the very beginning. Certainly, our country doesn't have a culture of innovation, a culture of failing, a culture of learning from failure, a culture of really bringing good people together, to solve problems. Like I told you, it starts with the education system. What's the culture of our education system? And that just expands. And all the culture of Mandinga, worship this, worship that, school days, worship politicians. No, we had the Kalama Sutra, the Buddhist, we are supposed to be a Buddhist country, but we do not take that essence of the Kalama Sutra. We do not have to go to Western thinkers for critical thinking. The Kalama Sutra says what? Just because your teachers tell you, just because your elders and your parents tell you, just because religious leaders tell you, just because religious books tell you, just because I tell you, says Lord Buddha, do not accept it as the truth. You validate, is it true for you? Essence of critical thinking. We don't teach that. In fact, I gave an interview to a school, I don't want to mention the name. They edited that section off because I'm saying just because your teachers and elders tell you. In other words, that's the culture. We are afraid. They edited the Kalama Sutra from my talk because it will offend somebody. That's the culture. So how can you have leadership? You'll have politicians, you'll have bureaucrats who will tell you, sorry, I'm speaking in Singlish. I'm telling you, you do it because I tell you, because I wield power. Don't question me. You saw that interview with that lady questioning the environment, the politicians. And he said, who needs oxygen? Who needs oxygen? We need commission. But you need oxygen. You see. So, long answer, but thank you. I'm sorry, my other questions I'll answer briefly. Great question to start things off for your week.
Sure, definitely, Peter. So the next question goes like this. Don't you think sometimes creativity is limited due to timeliness and due dates? Don't you think sometimes creativity is limited to timeliness and due dates?
Great question. You have to start thinking about this. Who set the due date? How was the due date set? So if you start accepting that that is the due date, the question is who set it? That's the first question. So why have you imposed upon yourself an arbitrary date? Now, I'm not saying don't set due dates. I'm not saying that. But have you set the due date without due consideration to what it takes to build that piece of work? A bridge, an elevator, a skyscraper, life support system. Now, can you say a due date for a life support system and say, I've got a due date? My life support system might not save lives. How can you say that? Well, first version, 15 people will die out of 100. I'll take it. Is it okay? Or is it zero? So who's setting the date? Is it the companies that want to make profit? Now look at the vaccination. I mean, I am very worried about this. Generally, it takes 10 years to develop a vaccination. Then they say, oh no, we have the technology. You see, they throw technology, mRNA. You're playing with your genetic code. And now we know that pharmaceutical companies have done harmful drugs which they have later withdrawn. Opioid crisis, drugs that cause devastation, approved by the FDA, approved by the FDA. Why? In a rush to make profits. Now they are saying vaccinate all the children. Vaccinate all the children. I mean, for what? What is the data? What's the study? What's the mad rush? So due dates. For what? So that's the thing. What are you building? If you're building a piece of something that someone says, I don't mind, I'll take it. Because it's not life-threatening, it is not important, I'll take the first version. That's okay. Because the customer says, I'll take the first version because I just want to, for example, our company KL Mala Productions. we are doing movies and web entertainment, web programs and all that. Our goal is to try and get our young writers to write something that we want to take to Netflix and all of that. Fine. I work part-time. Now, we have to showcase what we are going to do. So we quickly set a deadline and said we will shoot some of the material we have. Now, it didn't turn out very well, but at least we know that, because that's not life-threatening, and that's only for us. A customer is not going to use it. That's okay. But if a customer is going to use it for a critical business, then you have a problem. And you have not even considered the creative aspect. When you took on the new day, you thought, no, it's writing code. I can't write this code in 5 days. So you have not thought through what it takes. So my answer to that is, it's arbitrary. It depends on the circumstances, but clearly my answer would indicate certain types of code that you're writing, there's no room for that kind of quick and dirty first version, and say no, there's no time for creativity. Creativity is the essence of software, and every software has to be elegant. It has to stand the test of public safety and reliability. So you have to ask yourself these questions. I'm just giving a perspective. So I would never compromise the creative aspect of the process if I want a good product. Again, coming back to my partner, now when she starts with an inspiration for a collection, they would do 200 different samples or products, out of which they finally select 18 that goes on the ramp. And each of these have many iterations. And they will, not like a lot of designers, but if you're serious about your craft, you will not put it on that ramp on the day of the show unless you've had at least 200 to choose from. And then you work back and you make it so good and so elegant, and then you put it out and say, stand up and I'm proud of it. Yeah. Great question. 2 great questions.
All right. So the next one is more of a statement than a question per se, Peter. So sure. This goes as this session should share with a lot of managers in SL. And thank you. So that's what he has mentioned.
This
of
session
course, this
should
needs
share
to
with managers. Is that what he said?
Share. Yes. All right. So I think we have come to the end of the Q&A session, Peter.
Okay.
So we would like to hear your final remarks if you have any.
Okay, my first remark is I'm a little surprised that there are not enough questions. So so the first thing I challenge you is to ask questions. You see, intelligence or thinking is not about finding solutions. It starts with design thinking, critical thinking, creativity, problem solving starts with asking questions. So I see a big drawback that either my session was completely relevant to you, and I understand that and I respect that. So for a lot of you, you said, oh, this is not what I wanted to hear. So I respect that. But even then, even on that point, you could have challenged me. So as software programmers, if you are going to be in the space of problem solving, start asking questions. So if there's one thing that you want to take from this, you tell yourself, oh, damn, I should have asked a question. So ask questions. Secondly, we spoke about engineering and software and all of that. What is all this for? I mean, you're going through dead day, you're learning your craft, you're getting better at it, you're writing code, all that well and good. But at the end of the day, what is the purpose of your life? Is it about being a great programmer and you have created extraordinary value to some company? It is okay as an employee, you need to do that. And that company could be in the business of, harming society or the planet. So first you have to ask yourself, what kind of company do I want to work for? Is it doing good for humanity or is it doing harm to humanity? And do I want to be a part of that? So that's a good place to start. Because today, because of profit, because of greed, we are destroying our country and our planet. You can see it all around you. There's destruction. And as engineers, as software developers, as human beings, what must you think about? That's why I come back to your topic. Your topic says embrace digital. I say no. Embrace humanity. Embrace humanity. Don't live digital. Digital is not a life. It's not your life. Live human. Don't live digital. Understand digital, be a part of digital. So I'm challenging your team itself. Don't invite people to live digital. I understand what you're trying to say. You're trying to say all what we spoke about, get into that digital mindset. But that's not your life. Your life is not your career. Your life is not your work. Your life is something other than. You infuse life into whatever you do. So don't think of your software career as your life. Life is bigger than that. And what is your life going to be worth? Suppose you have 30 seconds left to think about your life. You're not going to, I'm sure you're not going to think about the greatest piece of code you wrote. Probably not. But if you have contributed to one of the many problems facing this country and the planet, look at what you're facing. Look at what the teachers are going through today. These are teachers who taught you. They are out there. I see a group of them in the hot sun, when the sun is there, or in the rain, outside the parliament, the president's office, trying to draw attention to the fact that when an A-grade principal leaves school, after 20, 30 years of service, his salary, last round salary, is 60,000. That's a crime against our people and our teachers. Sangha Veda Guru Govi Kankar. Third of the so-called Panchama Balaveda, out on the road saying, give us the salary your committee decided to give us. Can you leave a job at 60,000? Is it okay for you to be indifferent to that? When you're talking about the struggles of teachers who taught you, and you are using whatever they taught or whatever they didn't teach, okay, you can question that. That's okay. But most of them are doing a tough job. Can you be indifferent to that? Can you be indifferent to the problem of the fertilizer? Can you be indifferent to the road accidents that are caused with impunity? Today I read an article saying the World Bank thinks we need 2 billion to save lives because we're losing thousands of lives on our roads every day. Supposing we were losing this in a war, if the LTT was killing thousands of people, we'll spend multi-millions to buy arms to stop that. But it's okay for our people to die on the roads, like dogs on the street. Or I take about the kidney disease problem. People are dying now, they're saying. You have organic fertilizer. Okay, fine. But the country needed 1,000 dialysis machines because now you're having people with kidney disease who have to get dialysis. Organic farming will come years later. What about the fellows who are dying now? So we needed 1,000 dialysis machines some years ago. The country had only 180. So how much would it cost 1,000 dialysis machines? 2 billion rupees. What did we do? We spent 4 billion to build a cricket stadium in Surya where hardly a match is played. Is it okay for you to be indifferent and say, I don't have a kidney problem, none of my family members have kidney problems? So my point is, what is the purpose? If you're embracing humanity, think about your life. And if you can, in the last 30 seconds, say, you know what? I used the talent that I had to solve at least, or to think about or engage with one of the many problems faced by our people and our country. Then you can say, my life was well lived and my life was worth it. So with that, I urge you a very good week of learning and reflecting and understanding. Use the session to question your own self. First as a programmer, second as a human being. And I hope you can be a better person. And through your contribution, we can make our country and our planet a better place for the generations that are to come. Thank you very much.
Indeed, sir, we need to question ourselves, definitely, right? So, Peter, we are humble and honored to have you as a keynote speaker for today. And thank you very much. And on behalf of our organizing committee, accept our sincere thank you to you as well.
Thank you. Goodbye.